My name is Ellie Cooper, and before you judge me, you should know this, I did not come here to be saved. I came here to disappear. I didn't pack much. Just 2 bags of clothes I no longer care about, a battered thermos I keep refilling with tea I barely drink, and the dog who refused to stay behind when I ran away from my own life. If you'd asked me 6 months ago where I'd be now, I would have lied and said happy. I was always good at lying. Now, the truth stares back at me every night in this broken down cabin at the edge of nowhere, truth in the rattling windows, the crooked door, the frost that blooms on the inside of the glass because the heater wheezes more than it warms, and in the dark, heavy shape lying at my feet, Bear, yes, Bear. He's the only thing I didn't plan on keeping. The only thing I can't seem to get rid of, no matter how hard I try. He's big enough to knock me over when he runs. He sheds enough fur to make a second dog every week. And when I look at him, I see 1,000 reasons I should be alone. But he sees none of them right now. He's watching me. He pretends to sleep, one ear flicking at every sigh I make. I know he's waiting. He always is. Stop staring at me, Bear, I mutter into my mug, though I know he won't. He doesn't listen when I want him to leave me alone. He never has, so I lean back against the couch's lumpy armrest. It pokes at my spine the way my guilt pokes at my ribs, constant, unavoidable. The wind howls against the roof, like it wants inside to finish what the cold has started in my bones. If you asked why I left him, the man I thought would fix me, you'd get another lie. The truth is worse than any excuse. I loved him too much and myself too little. I folded my edges until I fit the life he wanted, and I almost forgot there was a me underneath all that pleasing. Almost until one night I didn't. And I left, but Bear. He didn't care about our fights, or the slammed doors, or the ring I abandoned on the counter next to an apology I didn't mean. He just chased my car down the street, barking like he owned me, and maybe he does. I shouldn't have let him in. I should have shouted at him to go home to the neighbors, or the shelter, or anywhere but my passenger seat. But I didn't. And now he's here, and he won't leave, no matter how many times I shove him away. Tonight I try again anyway. I wiggle my toes under his belly fur. He's sprawled across my feet like a living, snoring heater. His eyes crack open, 2 shining brown coins of stubbornness and something dangerously close to understanding. Bear. Move. I push gently at his side with my socked foot. He grunts, shifts a fraction closer instead of away, and drops his head back down with a finality that makes me want to scream, you stubborn mutt. I don't want you here, I say, louder now. My voice bounces off the walls and dies in the corners. The wind claws at the shutters like it agrees. Be alone. Be miserable. That's what you came here for, isn't it? But Bear breathes slow and deep, like my words are meaningless static. Maybe to him they are. Maybe he knows better. I slide forward, pushing harder this time, hands pressed to his broad side, arms straining to dislodge the mountain of fur and flesh. He rolls slightly, but instead of moving off my feet, he plants a giant paw on my shin. And looks at me like I'm the world's biggest fool. Get off, you big idiot. I shove harder. My mug sloshes tea onto my sweater. Perfect. Now I'm cold and wet. The Bear's answer is to sigh, a deep, patient exhale that smells faintly of the leftover stew he stole from my bowl an hour ago. He shifts all his weight down, pinning my ankle. Like an anchor, outside, a branch scrapes against the roof. I flinch at the sound, too raw to pretend I'm not jumpy these days. My life back in the city was loud in a way that made me feel small. Out here, the silence is louder than any siren or slammed door. It makes my thoughts thunder. Bear doesn't care. His tail thumps once, like a heartbeat against the rug. I press my palms to my eyes. I hate how easily the tears come now. I used to swallow them down so deep no one saw, especially him. My ex hated tears, said they made him feel guilty. Funny thing about guilt, it's heavy, but it doesn't pin you down the way love does when it's twisted up with fear. Bear shifts again. He drags himself half onto the couch, squishing my legs under him like they're part of his bed. His fur is damp at the ends from our walk in the snow earlier. His breath tickles my wrist where he noses at it, as if to say, I'm here. I'm still here, why won't you go? I whisper. My voice breaks on the last word. I don't want you. I don't want anyone right now. His eyes meet mine, deep brown, unblinking. He blinks once, slow, then licks the back of my hand. One deliberate swipe, rough and warm and final that it's not permission. It's not an apology. It's just Bear. I push him again. He pushes back by doing nothing at all, by staying exactly where he is, pressing the warmth of his body into my skin until my excuses collapse under the weight of his simple, immovable love. I sink into the cushions, defeated. My mug trembles in my hands until I set it down on the warped coffee table. I bury both hands in his thick ruff, twisting the fur like it's a lifeline. He smells like wet leaves and old blankets and the woods after rain. He smells like every day I've survived so far. For a moment, I let my forehead drop to his broad skull. He doesn't flinch. He breathes. He stays. I don't deserve him. God, I don't deserve him, but tonight, while the wind screams and my thoughts circle like hungry wolves, I'm selfish enough to take what he offers. His warmth. His patience. His silence. His refusal to let me drown alone outside. The storm rages. Inside, Bear's heartbeat thrums steady against my thigh. I close my eyes and pretend, just for tonight, that I'm worth staying for, and I swear I hear him think it back at me. You are. Bear didn't move all night. I know, because I didn't really sleep. Somewhere between my heartbeat and his, my mind wandered down dark hallways. I thought I'd sealed off forever, the arguments. The slammed car door, the last time he said I love you like it tasted bitter in his mouth. The at dawn, the storm calmed, leaving behind a heavy quiet. I untangled myself from Bear's fur, stiff and sore from sleeping half upright on the crooked couch. He lifted his head, blinked blearily, then sighed back into his dreams. When I shuffled to the tiny kitchen, I pretended not to look at him every other second. Pretended I didn't want him pressed against my hip while I waited for the ancient kettle to boil. Stay there, I ordered, pointing at him with a trembling finger. My voice sounded braver than I felt. I need 5 minutes alone. Just 5. He didn't even lift his head. Just twitched one ear at me, as if to say sure, Ellie, whatever you say. The kettle wheezed to life. I poured hot water over the stale coffee grounds and watched it swirl in my chipped mug. For a second, the smell made me think of Sunday mornings. Warm hands on my back, whispered promises, the lie of forever. I squeezed my eyes shut until the memory dissolved. Outside, snow clung to the pines like frosting on a birthday cake no one would ever eat. The road was buried. The only tracks were ours from yesterday, mine shallow and aimless, Bear's deep and deliberate. He always follows. Always. I turned to scold him for it, but he was gone. My heart jerked. The living room was empty, the couch cushion still dented from his weight. No sound of his claws on the old floorboards. No soft huff of breath behind me. Bear? Silence. Panic bloomed too fast, faster than reason. I dropped the mug, hot coffee splattering my ankles. I didn't feel it. I stumbled to the front door, yanked it open so hard the wind slapped my face raw. The yard lay white and empty. Trees, heavy with ice, bowed toward the roof. I scanned for a big black shape against the snow. Nothing. Bear? My voice cracked the dawn like glass shattering. I strained to hear the jingle of his collar, the one thing I never took off, so he'd always come back. Nothing. I stepped into the drift barefoot, heatless coffee soaking my jeans. The cold cut through my panic, made me gasp. My breath puffed silver into the air, ragged and frantic. Bear. Bear, come back. Don't you dare run off now. A noise, behind the woodshed. A snuffle. A low, suspicious growl that didn't sound like him. I rounded the corner. And there he was, tail stiff, hackles raised, planted between me and the half-rotten shed door. He threw me a glance that said, "Stay back." Then he growled again, deeper this time, a sound I'd never heard from my gentle giant. I froze. My throat went dry. Bear, what is it, boy? Something moved behind the shed door. A slow scrape. A faint thud. Bear lunged forward, teeth bared in a silent snarl. I didn't breathe. My brain screamed at me to run back inside, lock the door, pretend I saw nothing. But my feet rooted to the snow like stubborn weeds, the shed door creaked open an inch. Then another, and then I saw him. A man. Young, maybe a few years older than me. His hair was matted with melting snow, his clothes torn at the sleeves. One boot, one bare foot wrapped in a filthy rag. His eyes flicked from Bear's bared teeth to me, wild eyes, eyes that had seen the inside of a storm too long. Please. He croaked. His lips were cracked, raw. Don't let him bite me. I'm not here to hurt you. I swear. Bear barked once, a sharp, booming command that vibrated in my ribs. He didn't lunge again, but his whole body said try it. Just try it. I found my voice somewhere deep under the fear. Who are you? The man sagged against the shed door. I got lost. Car slid off the road last night. I tried to find a light. Any light? I found your shed. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, he coughed, doubling over. A ragged, broken sound. Bear pressed closer to him, nose inches from his knee, growl rattling louder. I forced my feet to move. One step closer to the man. Bear glanced at me, clearly offended I wasn't letting him chase this intruder back into the woods. It's okay, Bear, I said softly. My voice trembled, but my hand stayed steady as I reached for his collar. Easy, boy. He's not hurting me. Bear whined low in his throat, but he let me pull him back a step. His body stayed rigid, coiled like a spring. The man slumped down. Half in the snow, half in the muddy threshold. Just need a phone. Or water. Please. Every cell in my body screamed no. No more people. No more messes. No more responsibilities. That's why I came here, to vanish, to need no one, to be needed by no one but this infuriating dog. But Bear pressed against my hip, vibrating with protective fury. His heartbeat thundered through my palm where I clutched his collar. And under the panic, a voice I hated reminded me, if you were freezing, lost, half dead, wouldn't you want a door to open? Stay, I whispered to Bear. Then louder, to the stranger, don't move. I hurried inside, grabbed my phone, my coat, an old blanket. My hands shook so badly the phone slipped twice onto the kitchen floor. No signal. Of course, when I stepped back outside, Bear surged forward, forcing me to brace my legs to keep him from dragging me face first into the snow. It's okay. I got you. I murmured it more to myself than him. The man looked smaller, curled at the shed's edge, shivering so hard his teeth clacked. I draped the blanket over his shoulders. He flinched at my touch but didn't pull away. Thank you. He rasped. His breath stank of hunger, stale and sour. You don't have to trust me. I didn't want to die out here. Bear's growl never stopped, a low motor of warning under my hand. I don't trust you, I admitted. But I won't leave you out here either. There's no cell service. I'll make you some tea. Then you'll explain everything. The man's eyes fluttered shut, relief crashing over his sunken face. He mumbled something that sounded like a prayer. I tugged Bear's collar, forcing him to back up enough for the man to crawl inside. He never took his eyes off the intruder, not once. Inside, the cabin felt smaller than ever. The man huddled near the stove, blanket drawn tight. Bear planted himself between us like a wall, pressing so close to my knees I nearly tripped. I made more tea, my third cup in 12 hours. My hand still wouldn't stop trembling. The man watched me over the rim of the blanket. I'm Adam, he said hoarsely. I swear I'm not dangerous. Just unlucky. I didn't answer. I set the mug on the floor near him, careful not to get too close. Bear's tail brushed my leg, steady as a metronome, reminding me, I'm here. If he tries anything, I've got you. Adam's eyes closed again as steam drifted around his bruised face. Outside, the wind rattled the shutters, reminding me how alone we were. How one wrong choice could ruin everything I'd fought to bury here. I looked down at Bear. His eyes locked on mine, steady and fearless. I whispered so low only he could hear. I tried to push you away. I wanted you gone. But right now, thank you for staying. He leaned his giant head into my thigh, one slow wag of his tail thumping like a promise that no matter what storms I run from, or what strangers blow in with them, my dog refuses to leave. By sunrise, the storm returned, as if it had been waiting for permission. The wind punched at the walls like angry fists, snow blew sideways past the window, and somewhere under the floor, the old pipes moaned in protest. Inside, the air felt tighter than ever. I sat cross-legged on the couch, mug of weak tea between my hands, while Adam, the stranger I never wanted, dozed in the armchair by the stove. He looked smaller in daylight, pale, bony wrists poking out from under the blanket, hair greasy and stuck to his forehead, and bare was the immovable barrier between us. He lay stretched out, tail flicking occasionally, when I always slid it open, as if daring this man to twitch wrong. He hadn't left my side since dragging Adam inside. Not once. Even when I stumbled to the bathroom in the night, I found him posted outside the door like a furry sentry. I watched them both now, the stranger and the dog who refused to abandon me, and tried to stitch my thoughts together. I'd run here to be alone. I'd built these walls out of silence and guilt and frost. Now, without asking, this half-frozen man had knocked a hole clean through them. And Bear, instead of helping me shove him back into the storm, had forced me to keep him alive. I leaned forward and whispered into Bear's twitching ear. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You knew I'd help him. You big, manipulative lump. He didn't react. But the tip of his tail thumped once against the floor, soft, smug. Punctuation. Adam stirred. His eyes fluttered open. When he saw me watching, he tensed, as if bracing for me to kick him out into the storm that still battered the walls. I'll leave, he rasped. His voice was raw, worn at the edges like torn fabric. As soon as it's safe. I don't want to cause trouble. Bear's ears snapped forward at the word leave. A low growl vibrated through his chest before I even realized he was doing it. I reached to hush him, my fingers sinking into the thick fur at his scruff. His heartbeat thudded steady beneath my palm, more reassuring than any promise Adam could make. I forced my voice calm. You're not going anywhere right now. Look outside. You'd freeze before you hit the main road. Adam's shoulders dropped a fraction. Thank you. Really? I'll work for it. Chop wood, shovel snow, anything. I'm not here to take advantage of you. Bear snorted, the canine version of I'll be the judge of that. I almost laughed, almost. Instead, I sighed and rubbed my temple. My brain buzzed with half-formed fears. What if he's lying? What if he's dangerous? What if this is how people disappear? But Bear hadn't left him out there. And Bear hadn't left me alone since the day I drove away from everything familiar. If my dog trusted this broken stranger enough to drag me into it, maybe I owed them both at least one chance. I stood and crossed the room to the tiny kitchenette. Bear shadowed every step, muscles taut, nose brushing my calf as if checking I was still real. I pulled 2 dented cans from the pantry. Vegetable soup, the kind I'd been too depressed to eat for days. When I turned, Adam was watching me. Not with hunger, though his ribs showed even through the loose flannel shirt I'd given him, but with an edge of something more unsettling. Hope, you don't have to cook for me, he said quickly, as if afraid it might break whatever fragile kindness held him here. I'm not cooking, I corrected, popping the lids with a squeal of metal. I'm heating soup. Don't romanticize it. Bear sat beside me, nose tilted up, drool already forming at the corner of his mouth. Oh, you want some too? I muttered, scratching behind his ear. Like you haven't eaten more than me lately. Adam's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but something trying to remember how. He's protective. I've never seen a dog like that. I snorted. You have no idea. He's basically my unpaid bodyguard. Except he demands belly rubs as salary. I ladled the watery soup into 2 mismatched bowls, placed them on the coffee table, and sat back down. Bear immediately pressed his head into my lap, nose inching suspiciously close to my bowl. Not for you, Mooch. I nudged him away with my elbow. He ignored me, eyes locked on my spoon like he could will it to drop. Adam ate carefully, every movement slow, as if expecting me to snatch it away at any moment. Between mouthfuls, he risked a question, "Why are you out here alone?" The words dropped like a stone in my chest. Bear must have felt it, his head snapped up, eyes darting between me and Adam like he'd bite off the man's hand for daring to ask. I pushed my bowl aside. "Appetite gone, none of your business," I said, too sharply. Regret burned my tongue a second later, but I didn't take it back. Adam nodded, eyes lowered. He blew on his spoon. "Fair. I'm sorry. You saved me. I figured you must have run from something too." The wind groaned against the door. Snow rattled the window like a warning. Bear leaned harder against me until my ribs ached. His silent way of saying, "Breathe, Ellie. I'm here. Breathe, I didn't save you," I said quietly. He did. I ruffled Bear's fur, fingers tangling in knots I hadn't brushed out in days. "If it were up to me, I'd have pretended I didn't hear you. But he doesn't care what I pretend." Adam watched Bear with something close to envy. "You're lucky. He loves you like it's his only job." I forced a laugh, brittle and small. "Yeah, it is. And he's annoyingly good at it." Silence stretched between us. Not comfortable, not yet. But not hostile either. I glanced at the clock, noon already. The storm didn't care. It pressed its face against the windows, daring us to try and leave. "Come on," I said, mostly to Bear. "Time to check the woodpile. Adam, if you're staying, you're helping." "Fair's fair." Adam stood shakily, blanket still wrapped around his shoulders like a makeshift cloak. Bear bristled at his movement, ears pinned forward. "Hey," I murmured to him, scratching under his chin. "You trust me, right? Just stay close. If he tries anything." Bear's tail flicked once, then his tongue swiped my wrist in quick answer. Always together, we bundled up, me in my patched parka, Adam in an old spare jacket that barely fit, Bear in nothing at all but the thick pelt that made him look twice his size in the snow. Outside, the world was white chaos. The path to the woodpile had vanished under drifts up to my knees. Bear bounded through it like it was nothing, circling back every few steps to check that we hadn't disappeared. Adam trudged behind me, wheezing from the cold, one hand clutching the jacket tight at his throat. "Why here?" he called over the wind. "This cabin, it's so far from everything." I didn't answer at first. I watched Bear plow through the snow, tail flagging high, black fur peppered with flakes. Unbothered. Determined. "I wanted quiet," I said finally. Turns out quiet is louder than I thought. Bear barked once, a sharp sound that made Adam flinch. He'd found the woodpile, mostly buried but still dry underneath. He turned to me, wagging hard enough to spray snow all over my jeans. "Good boy," I breathed, brushing the snow off his ears. He leaned into my chest so hard I nearly toppled backward into the drift. Adam laughed softly, a sound quickly swallowed by the wind. "He really doesn't let you out of his sight, does he?" I scratched Bear's ruff, ignoring the cold seeping through my gloves. No, he doesn't." And as I watched my dog, my constant shadow, my living reminder that some things refuse to abandon you no matter how much you think you deserve it, I realized maybe that was the point. By nightfall, the storm had become a living thing, clawing at the cabin walls, whistling through every crack like it was whispering secrets only I was meant to hear. The old roof creaked and groaned under the weight of fresh snow, threatening to buckle under the burden if we so much as breathed too loudly inside. We huddled in the cramped living room, three strangers bound together by cold and accident, me, the runaway, Adam, the castaway, and Bear, the sentinel who refused to let either of us forget who really ran this place. So I watched Adam from the corner of my eye as I fed kindling into the stove. He sat cross-legged on the rug, a mug of tea cupped in both hands like it was holy water. He hadn't said much since helping me drag in 2 armloads of wood. Every so often, I caught him staring at the door, not in fear, but like he was listening for something. Bear noticed too. He sat between us, his massive body blocking the narrow path from Adam to me, chin resting on my knee, eyes locked on Adam like a question he was daring him to answer. "Something on your mind?" I asked finally. My voice cracked in the dry air. Adam's shoulders twitched. He didn't look up. "Just thinking." "Thinking what?" "That maybe I should keep moving tomorrow. I don't want to get you mixed up in anything." My pulse spiked. I didn't like that anything. My gut twisted the same way it used to when I'd come home and find my ex on the phone, voice low. Back turned, saying "It's nothing, babe." Even though I knew it wasn't nothing, Bear growled, low, almost conversational, but it rumbled through the floorboards. Adam flinched and raised a hand like he could explain himself to a creature that cared more for actions than words. "Mixed up in what, Adam?" I pressed. "If there's something I should know before the storm traps us here for another week, now's your chance." He looked at me then. Really looked. Eyes sunken but alert, lips cracked but tight. He opened his mouth, shut it again, glanced at Bear, then back at the door. "Is someone looking for you?" I asked. My chest tightened around the question. I hated how my voice trembled on someone. Adam set the mug down too carefully. "I don't know. Maybe. I swear I didn't do anything wrong, not really. I just got mixed up with the wrong people, owed the wrong money. When my car spun out, I was running from them. That's the truth." The wind howled, rattling the shutters so hard one banged open and slammed back with a gunshot crack. Bear jumped to his feet, planting himself between Adam and the window, his tail stiff as a poker. I stood too, heart hammering in my throat. I forced my voice low, calm, for Bear's sake more than Adam's. "How wrong are we talking, Adam? Are they going to come here? Tonight?" Adam spread his hands helplessly. "I don't know. Maybe not tonight, no one could drive in this storm. But when it clears, they might trace my plates. I shouldn't have dragged you into it, I know. But I didn't have anywhere else to go." Bear barked, once, explosive, a thunder crack. That made Adam flinch so hard he nearly toppled the stove kettle. "Bear, hush," I said automatically, but my pulse roared louder than his bark. I could feel the primal dread pressing at the back of my skull. What if he's lying? What if this is bait? What if you're not alone anymore in the worst way possible? Bear swung his big head to me, ears flat, eyes flicking between Adam and the door. He grumbled, deep and vibrating, like he was telling me don't trust him yet. I crouched beside Bear, threading my fingers through the fur at his collar. "If they come here, you'll protect me, right?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. He pressed his broad head into my chest so hard I nearly tipped over, his tail whacking the table leg like a metronome counting down to something I didn't want to name. Adam watched us, guilt writ plain across his too honest face. "I swear. Ellie, if they come, I'll go outside. I won't bring trouble to your door." Bear's growl said like hell you will. I stood, wiping my sweaty palms on my jeans. "We'll deal with that if it happens. For now, you're staying put. I'm not sending you out to freeze and die over debts you clearly can't pay. But you so much as touch that door tonight, Adam, and you'll have to get past him first." I pointed at Bear. He licked my knee like punctuation. "Damn right, Adam." Gave a humorless laugh. "Wouldn't dream of it." The shutters rattled again. This time they didn't slam shut. The wind howled through the crack, carrying a sound I didn't want to believe I heard at first, a distant engine, coughing and growling through the storm. Bear's head snapped up. He shot to the window, planted his paws on the sill, nose pressed to the fogged glass. A muffled bark thundered out of him, not the playful kind. The kind that made every hair on my arms stand up. Adam went dead white. "No. No, it can't be them. Nobody drives in this weather. It's suicide." A faint pair of headlights cut through the swirling snow. Closer. Slower. One headlight flickered, then steadied. Bear barked again, sharper, then spun to stand in front of me, his whole body a barricade. My mind fractured into a dozen desperate thoughts. Should I hide? Should I call for help? There is no signal. Should I trust Adam? Should I trust Bear? Bear growled, low and endless, staring at the door like he could see right through the wood. His hackles bristled, tail stiff, teeth flashing with every bark. That tore from his throat. Adam turned to me, voice barely a rasp above the wind. Ellie, I swear, if it's them, I'll go out there. You stay inside with him. Lock the door behind me. I shook my head, my hand buried in Bear's fur so tight my knuckles ached. If you go out there alone, you'll die. And Bear will. Break the door down trying to get to me if anything happens. I'm not letting you die to save me from a mess that's half my fault now too. The engine choked closer. Tires crunched snow outside. Headlights swept the window, throwing Bear's massive shadow up the wall like a monster standing guard. I grabbed Adam's wrist, squeezing so hard I felt his pulse jackhammer under my palm. Listen to me. You stay behind Bear. If they knock, I'll talk. If they try to force the door, he'll handle it first. Understand? Adam nodded, breathless, eyes huge. Understood. I turned to Bear, dropping to my knees so my face was level with his. He was vibrating, a coiled spring of fur and muscle and love that would break the world to keep me safe. Good boy, I whispered, pressing my forehead to his broad skull. Stay with me. No matter what. His tail flicked once, the tiniest wag, then he pressed closer, breath warm against my cheek. A fist slammed against the door. Once. Twice. Bear exploded, a roar of a bark that rattled my bones. Adam stumbled back, half collapsing into the chair. My heartbeat went silent except for one thought: he won't let them take me. Not while he's breathing. Another knock. A voice I didn't know, muffled but sharp as broken glass. Hey. Cabin owner. Open up before we open it for you. Bear barked again, so loud I felt it in my ribs. I closed my eyes, one hand buried in his fur, the other clenched at my side. I tried to push him away. But my dog refused to leave, and tonight. That might be the only reason I'd still be alive when this storm was done. The knocking turned into pounding, fists and elbows slamming against the warped wood of my only door. Each blow rattled the frame so hard flakes of old paint fell onto Bear's back. He didn't flinch. Didn't blink. He planted himself between me and the door, a wall of fur and muscle and breath I could feel through the floor. Behind him, Adam hovered near the stove, as pale as the snowstorm howling through the crack in the broken window shutter. I couldn't decide if I wanted him closer or gone, but none of that mattered now. The storm, the debts, the wrong people, it had all found me anyway. A Bear's growl rumbled deep enough in his chest that I felt it in my feet before I heard it in my bones. A voice outside, rough, too loud, too close. Open up, sweetheart. We know he's in there. Just want to talk to your boyfriend. Adam flinched like he'd been shot. He pressed his back to the wall, eyes locked on me with a look I'd seen in the mirror too many nights, regret and shame and fear all tangled up and choking the throat. Another slam against the door. This time the hinges squealed. I sucked in a breath so sharp my chest burned. Bear barked once, an explosion of sound that swallowed the wind, the pounding fists, even the screaming panic in my head. He spun, staring straight at me, tail high, ears forward. Ready, his whole body said. Stay behind me, I whispered so soft. I hoped only he could hear it. Good boy. I trust you. Always. He answered by planting his paws wider, shoulders braced. No force on earth would move him now. I forced my legs to unlock. One slow step forward, so my hand could rest on Bear's broad back. His fur was warm under my palm, vibrating with the low snarl rolling up his throat. Adam, I said without looking back, get the poker from the stove. If they break the door, you defend yourself. But you stay behind Bear. You hear me? I felt him nod before he said, voice cracking. Yeah, I hear you. Another slam, this one split the top hinge from the frame. A sliver of icy air knifed through, carrying the stink of sweat and snow and cheap engine oil. I pressed closer to Bear's ear. Please don't get hurt, okay? Please. His tail flicked once, a heartbeat of comfort, then he surged forward and barked so violently I staggered back. He pressed his nose to the widening crack in the door, teeth bared, a deep thunder rolling out of him in waves to a shout from the other side, "Holy! It's a freakin' bear in there!" Laughter. Another slam, the door burst inward, flinging shards of rotted frame across the room. Wind and snow poured in behind two shapes, thick coats, masked faces, the stink of desperation carried on their boots. Bear launched first. No hesitation. He collided with the first man's knees like a battering ram, teeth snapping shut an inch from the guy's throat. The man screamed, tried to swing at him, but Bear's weight bowled him backward into the snow drift outside. The second one lunged for me. I saw the glint of a knife, the ugly twist of his mouth, but before he got 3 steps in, Bear wheeled around, jaws open, a roar tearing from him that didn't sound like barking anymore. I didn't see teeth connect. Didn't see fur or skin. Just a flurry of snarling and shouting and Adam's voice behind me yelling my name. I hit my knees behind the couch, arms over my head, heartbeat rattling so hard it drowned out the storm. That Bear's growl shook the air like thunder. I peeked up. Just as he slammed the second man into the doorway, teeth locked on the padded coat sleeve. The knife skittered across the floor, landing inches from my shaking hand. The first man scrambled up, face bloody from the fall. He saw me, saw the knife, saw Bear spinning back toward him, jaws open and furious. "Forget it," the man barked at his partner. "He's not worth it. Grab the car." They staggered back into the storm, half dragging each other, Bear snapping at their heels until they vanished behind the snow curtain. For a heartbeat that stretched forever, the only sound was Bear's heavy panting, and my own ragged sobs. Adam collapsed near the stove, dropping the poker with a clatter. He stared at me like he'd never seen another human before. "Ellie. I'm so, not now." I choked. I crawled to Bear, wrapping both arms around his massive shoulders. His fur was wet and flecked with snow, hot beneath where he pressed into my chest. He leaned into me, breathing hard but unhurt, licking my cheek once, twice, as if apologizing for not letting me handle it alone. "You're okay. You're okay," I whispered into his ear, again and again. My tears dripped into his fur. He didn't mind. He never did. When my vision cleared, I pulled back enough to look him over. A nick on his ear, nothing worse. No blood but mine and theirs, and mine was only from where I scraped my knee scrambling after him. "You protected me," I said hoarsely. "You stood your ground. You crazy, stubborn boy." His tail thumped once. Then again. The fire hissed behind me as if agreeing with him. Always, Adam sat slumped against the wall, hands limp on his knees. He looked smaller than when he'd arrived, hollow and defeated. "I shouldn't have come here," he said. His voice broke in the middle. "I shouldn't have dragged them to you. I don't know how to fix it." I wiped my face with the back of my wrist. Snow blew in through the half-shattered door, melting on Bear's broad back as he pressed tighter into my legs. "You can't fix it," I said quietly. "But you can start over. Away from here. Away from me. I'm done running from my own mess. You should be too." He nodded, eyes glistening. No argument. No excuses. Just a tired man at the end of his rope, and a woman who'd reached hers. Months ago, outside, the wind shrieked at the edges of the broken doorway. But inside, Bear breathed slow and steady, his heartbeat a drum I could follow back to myself. I bent and pressed my forehead to his. "I tried to push you away. I thought I wanted to be alone. But you wouldn't let me. Not once. You stubborn, perfect, impossible boy." He rumbled a soft huff, tail wagging, and lifted his paw to rest on my knee, the same knee I'd scraped raw protecting him years ago, when he was just a half-starved shadow behind a grocery store dumpster. I laughed through tears. I couldn't remember the last time my laugh had felt real. Tomorrow, I'd call for repairs. Tomorrow, Adam would leave and face whatever future he could patch together. Tomorrow, I'd decide whether to stay or go back to the city, to try, maybe, to be part of life again. But tonight, the only thing that mattered was the warm weight pressed into my side, the heartbeat that wouldn't leave me no matter how many times I failed him. The storm roared its fury at my door, but Bear roared louder. He'd stand his ground until the last breath left his chest, and if he could do that for me, maybe I could learn to stand mine too. I tried to push him away. But my dog refused to leave, and thank God he did. End.